Class, this is Course 2, Lesson 53. Today we're going to talk about ratio word problems. Remember the ratio compares to numbers, and we can write it as a fraction, and that's what we're going to do today. We're going to use a ratio box, and we're going to use proportions to solve. So let's go through an example. This is just an example. And we'll work through using a ratio box and using proportions to solve. So the scenario here is that the ratio of cows to horses at a farm was 3 to 5. If there were 45 cows, how many horses were there? Okay, so first thing we're going to do is use a ratio box. And a ratio box is going to just be 2 columns. And it's going to have 2 rows, and we're going to have some titles there. This first column will be ratio, and our second column will be the actual amount. And then we need to label what we're putting into the ratio box. Okay. So let's see. What do they tell us? They tell us the ratio of cows to horses. So I'm going to write cows and horses. Label your ratio box. That way you can put the information out of the problem in the right spots. So cows to horses, 3 to 5. So it's 3 cows to 5 horses. So 3 to 5. So I matched up cows with 3 because cows was first, so this one goes with cows and 5 goes with horses, and it goes in the ratio column because it tells us it's the ratio. If there were 45 cows, so that's like I look out at the farm and I see 45 cows, so that's the actual number of cows, so it goes here. How many horses were there? So that should be the box that's left open, the actual number of horses. So put a variable there. This becomes a proportion. 3/5 equals 45 over x. Okay, so do you see what I did there? I just took this information and I put a fraction bar here and a fraction bar here, and I said these are equal. And 2 different ways that you can solve this, or there's several different ways, but the 2 that we've talked about is that you can use cross products have to be equal if it's proportional, or you can say, well, what times 3 gets you 45? And right off the top of my head, I don't know that, so I'm going to do cross products. So 45 times 5. Let's see, 5 times 5 is 25. And 5 times 4 is 20 plus that 2, 225. And then I need to divide that by 3. And 3 times 7 is 21. And 5 times 3 is 15. So there are 75 horses. And I can just kind of visually check. The number of cows in the ratio was smaller than the number of horses, so the number of actual cows should be smaller than the number of actual horses, and they are. So at least for that part I think I've done a nice job. So again, the ratio box is this structure here, the columns and the rows that we fill in. Let's do one more problem. In the auditorium, the ratio of boys to girls was 5 to 4. If there were 200 girls in the auditorium, how many boys were there? Okay, so when I see ratios and things like this, I'm going to automatically draw a ratio box, especially when they're talking about the number that we know in the ratio and then the number that there are actual. Okay. Again, it just helps me organize my information. So I have a ratio, and I'll have an actual column, and the ratio of the 2 things we're comparing are boys to girls, so I'm going to write those in here, boys to girls, boys, 2 girls. It was 5, 2, 4. So 5, 2, 4. Boys goes with the 5, girls goes with the 4. If there were 200 girls in the auditorium, so there are 200 girls, so in the actual column I need to put that with the girls, not just with the first box. It needs to go in the box that is labeled girls. How many boys were there? There's your variable. And then we write our proportion. 5 over 4, 5 to 4 has to equal whatever x is to 200. And I can again do cross products. 5 times 200, 0, 0, 0, 1, and then divide that by the 4, and you get 250. So there are 250 boys that are there. Now again, the number of boys in our ratio was higher than the number of girls, so I should expect that my answer for boys is more than the number of girls, and it is. So this is an example of an area where you're maybe prone to make some mistakes, is that if you don't label your ratio correctly and then match up the numbers that they give you with the categories or the labels that they go with. So take some time, put the items or the values in the right boxes, and then remember to use cross products in a proportion or equal. So multiply and then divide, and that's all there is to it. So I hope you enjoyed lesson 53. I will see you in class.